Welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we are back this week with another creative entrepreneur. This young lady we met at Boss Blue a couple months, maybe like almost like 6 months ago. I don't even know how long. It feels like it was yesterday, but it was last year. But I've been following you ever since, and you're doing amazing work in the community. Everybody, welcome Arabia Simeon. Woo, woo, woo. I wish I had like a button, like. Burr, burr, burr.
Hi,
Welcome. Good morning. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's an early morning and I'm excited about the rest of this show and the rest of my day. So,
Yay. Well, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
yes, hi everyone. I am Arabia. I am a computer scientist, so techie, creative, and designer. And I'm the founder of PoGo, and that stands for Politics on the Go. And I'm basically building an app that simplifies civic engagement for Gen Z and millennials.
We need you. I was just telling you in the back of house how ignorant I feel about everything political. Like I I don't know where to find information. I don't know like what's right, what's real, what's fake, what's this, what's that.
Mhm.
And so I'm really excited to be talking to you today. So tell me how you got well, let's first talk about you being a techie scientist because I love that part.
Yeah. So in terms of how I got into computer science and stuff, I actually started pretty young, but it was like not real coding, I would say. Okay, let me not say that. It just wasn't like texting. It was more like bringing blocks across. But I started in this program called My First Lego League, and we were doing robotics. So we had like challenges, trying to solve world issues. And one of the themes that year was diabetes. So we had to create like a robot that would help people with diabetes detect their sugar levels and stuff. And that was in middle school. And then when I got to high school, I was still pretty interested in it. I actually wanted to be an electrical engineer growing up. So I would always take stuff apart and like put it back together. I've always been very visionary and like big mind and being able to see the bigger picture as well. So it always allowed me to like do projects outside of school and stuff like that. And fast forward to college, I knew I wanted to a major in computer science because I did. It was like a before school 0 credit class, just learning the initial like Python language. And yeah, from there I was like, okay, I want to go and do this, and I wanted to also, you know, be representation for my community, being a black woman, being from low income background and stuff like that. So that's how I got into tech.
Oh my gosh. Like you started early, early, early. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I was moderating a panel and they were asking this question and it kind of got people fired up. And they were asking, like, how do we get more women in STEM and blah, 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 blah. And so here we are. We have a young woman in STEM with us today. Like, how did you get? Was it in you? Did people push you in that direction? Like, what was your experience being in middle school, getting put into these programs? Because I have a lot of people with young kids that watch this show and interact with me and they're like, I want my kid to be blah blah blah. Like, is it like Dance Moms but for STEM?
Yeah. Honestly, my mom did not know anything about computer science. And I would say my dad, he's always been like smart in like math and stuff. So they always just like valued education though. I was actually like the first person in my family out of my siblings to go to college and stuff like that. So for me, I just wanted to honestly make money. So that's where I found engineering because I liked math, I liked science. I wanted to go to MIT and stuff like that. So those dreams died though.
Why? Why? Where did you end up going?
I ended up going to Smith College in Massachusetts. It's also a great school. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say for people who want to get into STEM or get their kids into STEM, look into programs in your local area. So sometimes there are programs such as like Girls Who Code, especially now because growing up, like I was literally one of the first cohorts of Girls Who Code in New York City. And
Okay.
I couldn't even do it full time because I was doing basketball and stuff like that. So I ended up quitting the program. But like if I actually did that program fully through, I probably would be way better at coding than I am now. But I think getting your kids into programs like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, seeing if your school or after school programs or anything around the city or wherever you live is doing anything like that, and if nothing is happening in your local area, then you can do meetups around other areas, if you don't mind driving, or virtual courses. So there's a lot of online resources nowadays for kids, virtual programs. And then for young people, if you're in college or if you're just trying to break into tech,
Yeah.
I would start with talking to people who are actually in tech, like myself, or talking to other people, and then, going to YouTube University and learning as much as you can. Like Google has online courses, Harvard has free courses online. A lot of the Ivy Leagues have free courses online, and a lot of other STEM related colleges or tech related colleges.
The more you know. I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, wait. You said something and it made me think. So are you from New York originally? Or are you like, because I met you in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm actually from New York. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing here?
I came here for a fellowship called Venture for America. It's a 2-year fellowship connecting budding entrepreneurs to startups and up and coming ecosystems. So, Detroit is one of the oldest partners in the Venture for America network. And for me, I really wanted to be in a city that was Black, had other forms of diversity, but really just like a lit city, honestly.
Yes.
I moved here in 2021, and honestly, Detroit hasn't disappointed me. Like I like it here. I love the people. I love the vibe. I'm always at Black Tech Saturdays and trying to always
Shout
network.
out
And
to Johnny and Alexa.
yeah, so I definitely feel like. Sorry, my dog just broke in here.
Oh, hey dog.
Definitely love Detroit, and that's really why I wanted to work in the startup ecosystem and be a part of like the revitalization, the take back of Detroit, with however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
It hasn't disappointed.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I don't know why I just assumed that you were from here, but I knew that you were with Venture for America. We got to shout out Homegirl Hill.
Yes,
Hillary, who
really.
I don't know exactly what her title is there right now, but I know she like supports you guys. And she's always plugging me in, tapping me in. She's like, you gotta check this person out. You gotta check this person out. And I never heard of Venture for America before, probably like before I started working at Bamboo. I didn't even know that it existed. So tell us a little bit about Venture for America and what it's done for you.
Yeah. So, Venture for America, honestly, was probably one of the best decisions I could have made coming out of college. So, I had a couple of internships. I taught coding over the summer as well. And when I was in my senior year, I really just wanted to do PoGo full time.
Yeah.
And that was not possible, basically, for me. I had to go back home. And then the pandemic happened, and I was just looking for something that could really, what's the word? Where I can make impact. So
Yeah.
not only in my job, but also in the city that I was moving to if I was going to move out of New York. And Venture for America came across my table because I knew people in the program from my college. And I basically just started talking to people who was in that program. And I was like, yeah, this is for me. And yeah, it didn't disappoint. I did 18 months at my startup. And I was a product and project manager. The cool thing about VFA is that you move to the new city with the cohort of people. Some people are from that city. Some people are moving there just like you. So you kind of have this built-in friend and network. And then people also stay in the city past their fellowship. So you can meet people who, know are a lot of people in the city that you're moving to and are well connected and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically VFA. We have like all these like founder programs and stuff. I've been through the accelerator, done a couple pitch competitions and stuff like that. So yeah, I think overall, probably one of the best decisions I've made out of college.
Is it for entrepreneurs only?
It's so it's for people who want to be entrepreneurs or startup leaders. So you don't have to go off and start your own venture, right? Some people end up going back to school and getting an MBA. Some people end up becoming the COO of their company or
Sure.
CEO. It just all depends on like your pathway. So we have like startup ecosystem builders, startup leaders, and then you have founders.
That's beautiful. I like, and Bamboo is the place that exposed me to this entrepreneurial community in Detroit and beyond. And the second I got into Bamboo, I met all these VFA people. Like the
Yes.
person that was working next to me, her name is Brittany Eshelman. She was a VFA fellow. She ended up moving back to Philly, but she was from DC, but she was living in Detroit. And I was like, what is happening? There's this other girl, Cassie, like she was like, I'm gonna head over to Australia for 3 months. I was like, you guys are amazing. Like the confidence that you have to just like pick up and go and like build. What was that experience like for you leaving New York? Was that your first time leaving home? Well, you went to Massachusetts for school.
Yeah.
But like what was that like coming to Detroit without like a university bubble? Because I feel like university is like special in that it's got the culture and community and activities plus
Yeah.
class. But like what was it like just coming to Detroit with a cohort of I don't know how many, but
Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna be in the beginning, it was hard. I
yeah.
really so Detroit was in my top three. I
Okay.
also was looking at Philly and Baltimore. So Baltimore was the city I was most comfortable with because I grew up going back and forth from New York to Baltimore. That's where my dad
Mhm.
lives. And Philly was a safe or a comfortable city because it was so close to New York.
Right.
Honestly, Detroit, I liked it so much because it had so many black people. At the time, it was like I think the blackest city in America, and I was like, oh yeah, this is about to be
Let's
lit.
go.
It's I call Detroit like Atlanta in the summertime. Like people don't know about it yet though, so it's like my own little secret. Um,
Don't keep it a secret. I mean, like the world needs to know. It's funny
I
because I don't
more,
know. I don't know if you know Nina Love because she was catering at Boss Blue for, or she was like their a lead there, but she's also from New York. And I just recently interviewed her, and she's talking about how much she loves Detroit. And I was like, y'all don't got to keep it a secret, but like we can gate like slightly gatekeep, but not gatekeep, because people need to come here. People need to know. I was born and raised in Michigan, and so like I'm constantly telling people like everywhere I go, I'm from Detroit. Come to Detroit. Come visit us. And people are like,
what's it?
what?
Who wants to go there?
Why?
Yeah,
Like, will I die? And I'm like, are you? What rock are you living under? But apparently, we got a bad reputation for no reason. Well, not for no reason, but it's old. It's our parents. It's our parents' parents. Even people from here, like, will not. They won't hop on the lodge and come all the way down for the same reasons why people in New York won't come here or whatever. But I have noticed that there's a lot of people from New York willing to come here. They're
yeah.
they're not uncomfortable with.
Very similar. Like a lot of people see who aren't from New York see the Manhattan, and all the other boroughs are similar to other major cities, right? Like we don't necessarily belong as much, and then it's also like a level of grit and hustle culture that's happening in both New York and in Detroit. I just think it's happening slightly different, but Detroit and New York are very similar. Same thing with like
Tell me
Baltimore,
why.
Philly, Chicago. Like, well, the people, I think a lot of people from both New York and Detroit, especially Black people, actually migrated from the same parts of the South. So
Mm,
I actually have family in Detroit. I have family in like Chicago and other Midwest cities. So like that's one thing that links us. And then also I think the culture of like, well, I think Detroit has a little bit more Southern hospitality than New Yorkers. New Yorkers can be very aggressive, but I do think Detroiters get aggressive if they need to,
yes.
um, and it's more of like "don't play with me" attitude, and I love
Yeah.
that. I also love like the honesty. I love the food and things like that. Of course, New York is like the food capital of the world. No shade to anybody else, but Detroit
Okay.
is definitely up there. And I
Yeah.
also love the diversity, like the hidden diversity too. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many like how big like the Mexican population was in Detroit or like the Middle Eastern population. Like
Hmm.
I just didn't know about all those things. I was coming here for the
Yeah.
Black people, honestly.
Right. Well, there's a couple things there because I mean, Michigan is still very segregated in that way. Like you see, when you think about the black population, you think of Detroit. When you think of the Mexican population, you think of Southwest Detroit. Middle Eastern, you think of Dearborn. Like Jews are in Southfield, Asian people are in Madison Heights, Warren, Macomb County. And so like we are very segregated still. And that is something that I'm trying to actively change. I'm like, we all need to know each other because y'all are dope. We're dope. Everybody over here is dope. Why are we not playing in the sandbox together? And that's
I
kind of how I got started because I started emceeing in hip hop shows when I was in college. Like it was just something I did for fun. So I would head down to Detroit, what is now where it's called, oh my gosh, Phil Simpson with the Smile brand. It's his current gallery.
oh that's cool.
Why am I not? I can't think of the name of it.
It's
The
okay.
Smile, it's not the Smile Gallery, but before Phil took it over, it was called the Untitled Bottega,
Mm.
and there was just hip hop shows, and there was music shows, and there was all kinds of stuff happening there. And so I started emceeing over there. I started doing the ladies' night for the hip hop shows. I started hosting improv classes there, and I started meeting all these cool people like in the music scene. And then I went to a venue and I bumped into this crew called there's a b-boy crew. His name, the guy that's the founder of the organization is called Matt, is named Mav, and then the group is called Motor City Street Dance Academy.
Oh, wow.
They're amazing. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like almost all of you guys are Mexican and sprinkled in some black folks and some white folks. But I was like, where have you guys been? And how come you don't know these people? And then I started doing fashion and same thing. None of them knew each other. And I was like, you guys need to know each other because you could do some cool shit together. And so I threw my first event. It was called the Trifecta, and it was fashion, music, and dance. And it was this
Oh,
big, beautiful, like explosion of culture and people. And like my favorite part was that people were like, I needed you. I needed you this whole time. And how did I not know you? But they just weren't willing to like
yeah,
play, you know? So that is something that I love that there's diversity here, but I hate that it's so separated.
yeah,
I will say that.
yeah.
New
I would.
York seems a little more
Well, now,
entangled.
yeah, because it's like loud gentrification. I feel like, but it was a little segregated growing up. But yeah, I think that's true. There's also like the city versus like suburb, surrounding suburb thing too in Detroit and New York.
Mm-hmm.
I think Detroiters, I don't know, this mixed might
Say
be
it.
action, but Detroiters, I've met both sides. Some are like, nah, they're not a part of Detroit, and then some are like, okay, we can count up until a certain point, you know. And I feel like New Yorkers do similar things. Like any, honestly, for me, anything past Yonkers is not New York City, and even
Okay.
you really got to be right there above the Bronx, you know.
Yeah.
And in
That,
Detroit, I feel
yeah.
like I don't know, Southfield definitely the burbs, but like they're burb that I like, you know, like I like
Yeah.
real people.
I feel like a lot of people in Southfield lived in Detroit and moved to Southfield. Like they got enough money to like, or they worked out there, or they got a job out there, and their family's growing or whatever. Like I don't know. There's that piece which I think is interesting, and it feels, and it's going to lead us into this political conversation because it feels like socially political, where it's like if you're born and raised in Detroit, you're a Detroiter. If you're around Detroit and Metro Detroit, you say you're from Metro Detroit, but if you go somewhere else, guilty of this. I say I'm from Detroit because if I say I'm from Michigan, people are like, where? Where are you from? I'm like, Detroit. And they're like, oh, okay. How are you alive right now? And I'm like, yo, just come visit me. Just come visit me. Let me introduce you to all the music, the art, the culture, the architecture, the history, the people. Like, there's so much more than just this weird reputation. But internally, same with New York, I feel like we're constantly having this fight. And it's like, obviously gentrification is a huge issue. Like
Yeah,
we moved to Texas, my husband and I, for 4 years. And it was like right before the pandemic. And within 6 months, when we came back home to visit, shit was different. Everything was different. New building was up. Bike. I remember when the bike lanes came in, and we were like, "What is happening? Like, there's bike lanes. There's bike lanes everywhere. Like, okay, like it's great, but like, what about fixing all these houses? What about making affordable houses?"
yeah.
Anyway, that gets me into this political, like, okay, so you have PoGo, the founder of PoGo. Tell us again what that is.
Yeah, so our tagline is that we're simplifying civic engagement for Gen Z and millennials. But what our app really is a nonpartisan digital voter guide. So I don't know if you ever remember getting like those voter guides in the mail. You probably don't look at it at this point. But a lot of that information is supposed to be informing you on candidates and what they stand for. Most people, though, don't look at that or don't read it at all.
Right.
Most people don't even know how to get registered to vote or access to like their polling location. So what we're trying to do at PoGo is putting everything that you need for civic engagement, not even just for elections, but beyond that, in one place through an app. We designed it like Tinder, so you can swipe left and right on candidates that you align with. And we also personalize it to your views through our onboarding process where you tell us what you care about and how much you care. And then from that point, you can actually build a ballot in the app using that swipe feature, as well as in the future having polling opportunities to tell us what you care about. And that will be directly from like organizations in your local area. Sorry, my eyes.
Oh,
Um,
you're good.
but yeah, from your local area. And then we're planning on gamifying the platform towards the November election so that it can be similar to like Duolingo or some of the other gamification apps where you get rewards
Ooh,
for being civically engaged and badges and can be on the leaderboard and things like that.
I love this. Okay, so I will proudly, not proudly, I'm not proud of this, but I will admit and be open and transparent that I am not an educated voter and I hate that. Like I feel like I'm constantly in my hustle, working on my thing, like doing my own community service and community engagement. And then when it comes to voting time, I'm just like, like what's happening? Where do I find the information? What's happening? And I feel the word is ashamed, but I'm being transparent about it. I feel shamed about that. I'm like, I don't know. And the other part is, I don't know where to find the right information, and I don't know if it's real. And then, you get all these like scary, like social media posts where they're like, don't trust this, or this is fake, or this is real, or this. And then, like, all of the social media side of it too is just like a little overwhelming. And so, like, I'm just curious how you got into doing an app around voting and civic engagement.
Yeah. So I was feeling exactly the same way as you were feeling when I was voting for the first time. Just a little backstory. I will say, like, there's a difference between being an informed voter and then being civically engaged. And what we want people to be is civically engaged all around. And I think a lot of the time, civic engagement boils down to if you vote or not. And like, if you're doing community service, if you're volunteering at nonprofits, if you are speaking to your council people, or at least know their names and know how to contact them, I would say you're civically engaged. So I consider myself civically engaged growing up. I did a lot of community organizing, a lot of leading protests and youth marches and things like that. I went to my city council meetings and really got embedded in like the local community. I was on like youth councils and things like that. And then, but what I was not realizing is that I really didn't know that much about voting engagement. Until I got to college and I was voting for the first time. I just knew going to the line, you vote, or whatever the situation was, but I didn't ever realize that if I went away to college, I would have to get an absentee ballot. And I literally, I was so like taken aback because, like you just said, I'm in college, double majoring, trying to figure out my life. It's my first year. And then not only that, but it's one of the biggest elections of my whole entire life, like Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton in 2016. And I am livid every single day, like just upset and not really being able to focus on what's going on in my local community at all. And when I did not know anybody except Trump and Hillary. And that was just like, well, an eye opener for me. I also didn't have enough money to send my ballot overnight. So if my vote counted in that election. But I still sent it out. And I saw other people around me scrambling, doing the same thing. Like people were calling their parents like, oh my gosh, please. Like, who do I vote for? Can you send me $2 so I can express ship this back home? It's like, I didn't know. I could not do that. But yeah, that was my first voting experience. And it always stuck in the back of my head throughout college. I would say I didn't work on it until my senior year, though, when I was in an entrepreneurship class. And I was like, what is a problem that everybody's having? It was a group class. So I was in a group with other people at Smith. And one of my friends brought up like vicious campaign cycles and just talking about like how rich people are getting elected often because they have the campaign dollars and how expensive it is to run for office and stuff like that. So originally we wanted to do something on that side of politics, but realized that the market could be difficult to get into. So I decided to come up with like an app and I proposed it to the group, and that's basically where PoGo was born.
Oh my goodness. And what's that experience been like ever since? So PoGo was born, you graduate college, you go to VFA, and where are you now? What's happening with the app? What's happening with you? What's happening with the business?
Yeah. So that was in 2019. I basically spent, I want to say, a whole semester just researching and trying to get the first mock-ups of the design. I did it as like my senior capstone project. And then fast forward to graduation. Again, I wanted to go do PoGo full time. I was like begging my parents, like, hey, can you just like give me like $2,000 and let me see what I could do?
Yeah.
I was just literally begging anybody. And honestly, my mom was just like, girl, you're gonna have to get a job. And I was like, okay. And I just
Mm,
my butt off trying to get into VFA. For those who don't know, like the VFA process is long. So it basically took me like 6 months to a year to
wow.
fully get solidified in that. And in that time, though, I was still working on PoGo. So I did a design case study, and then I was also interning at this startup and stuff like that. But I did a design case study where I was researching and speaking to voters and politicians, and I interviewed like over 100 people.
Wow.
And surveyed them and stuff like that, just to figure out what the relationship was when it came to young people and voting. And then that was like the first iteration of, or I guess the second iteration of our designs and stuff like that. Fast forward to, I want to say about 2021, because the 2020 pandemic hit and I did not have
Yeah.
the capacity to talk about politics.
Sure.
Um,
It's too much.
yeah, so
Yeah.
2021, I was still working at my startup, or I started working at my startup, and I was like, okay, I'm in Detroit to make PoGo happen. Like, this is where I'm here. So
Hmm.
working on my startup or PoGo as my 5 to 9 essentially, and on the weekends. So I was
Yeah.
doing speech competitions, developing out the app and stuff like that. I did a couple of entrepreneurship programs around the city. I partnered with Wayne State to build the MVP version of our app with their senior capstone in the computer science department, and that was really,
Okay.
shout out to my interns. They're doing big things now.
Yes, as they should be. Okay, wait. Before you go on, I want to like rewind a little bit because I feel like there's a lot of people that are curious about these different programs. So you mentioned a couple things. You said that you did some entrepreneurship programs. You said you did an MVP. You said a lot of things that you were doing here in Detroit, and I'm just kind of curious, what were those things?
Yeah. So one of the programs that I did was Tech Town Start Studio. So I did their MVP program. Shout out to Tech Town. They have a really cool customer discovery program, which is for people at the idea stage who are trying to figure out what their business actually is and if it solves a problem in the market. So they walk you through how to do customer discovery, which is basically interviews with potential customers or potential users. And you have to do, I think, up to 50. So because I had the case study, though, I got fast tracked through that program. I didn't do that program. I did the MVP program, which is their next thing. And MVP just stands for minimal viable product. That's basically like, how can you start making money or getting traction around your product with the minimum amount of effort?
Oh,
Um, so for PoGo, we built MVP using a no-code platform, which basically means that it's like think of it like Wix or Squarespace, but for mobile apps
nice. I
instead of
love
web.
that. And
Yeah.
Techtown is huge. Like I'm in their retail boot camp right now. I'm in
Yes.
my week 2 and I
Congratulations.
am learning my face off. Thank you. It's so for those of you that don't know, retail boot camp is focused on individuals that want to start a business that has a brick and mortar associated with it. There's 2 different versions. So they have an e-commerce cohort and then they have the brick and mortar cohort, which I'm in right now. And it's kicking my butt. It's kicking my butt in the best way. When they say boot camp, they mean boot camp like aye captain boot camp, like like not in a bad way, but in the way that I feel like I need it. And I'm just getting exposed. I've known about Techtown for a long time, but I'm finally getting exposed because I'm in there to the
Yeah.
other products, programs, people, support systems that they have available. And it's crazy how they do so much of this stuff for $0 or for like the amount of free education. Now, I will say for retail bootcamp, you have to invest $4.99. But if you get through it, if you finish it, they give you $500 back. So they're like, we invest your first dollar. And
Yeah.
then you could win a $5,000 grant, and there's 3 of them that go out. And so for those of you that are like sitting on an idea, if you're at the idea phase, it sounds like there's a product for you. If you're like ready to open up a brick and mortar, because the way this program goes, for 6 months after the program ends, I have free coaching, and they want me to open up a brick and mortar in 12 months in
Oh,
Wayne County,
I love that.
which I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that. I'm like, okay, we have
Yes,
this timeline. Why fight the timeline? Like,
exactly.
it's like that for a reason. Let's do it, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that's beautiful about Tech Town. It's like they give you the accountability that you need at the idea stage. A lot of the time, we don't have the time to work on our projects 40 hours out of the week or the resources to do that. So if you can dedicate, maybe 2 or 3 times a week or even 1 to 2, times a week where you can really sit down and work on your stuff for 2 hours, is a lot of time, right? That adds up over time. So TechTown is definitely a great program. I didn't do these other programs I'm about to name, but I also heard they were good. So DMB has a couple of resources for entrepreneurs. Tech Found
What was the acronyms?
Detroit means business, DMB.
DMB. Okay, cool.
Yes, they have a couple of resources for tech founders, small business owners, and other entrepreneurs. And then Metro Black Business Alliance has resources and programs for young Black entrepreneurs of both mostly small businesses, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're great. And then Prosperous Detroit also has a great program that one of my friends is in right now for, again, budding entrepreneurs or people who are basically trying to make their businesses come to life. And there's a lot of resources around the city, honestly.
Yeah.
You just have to get tapped into them. And that's one thing that's like a problem of Detroit, like everything's in silos. But
Yeah.
once you tapped into the network, and honestly, it can be as simple as reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn and having them invite you somewhere, or going to,
Call me. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
or
That's
going
that's
to right and stuff like that. Like getting out there.
show up to stuff. Go to things. I feel like what comes up a lot on on the Let's Glow show is chambers and how much chambers can expose you to what's available.
Mm,
I wouldn't consider they're kind of like a chamber. Like Black Tech Saturdays is like building a list of resources of like venture capitalists, resources, free courses, classes, all that stuff. So go to Black Tech Saturdays if you're looking for stuff in that realm. I just learned about Oakland Thrive. I have a relationship with through Bamboo. They're in Oakland County, so they offer free resources in Oakland County. I just heard about Velocity
mm,
yesterday, which is Macomb County, which is basically Oakland Thrive, but for Macomb County. So free resources, classes, workshops. When I looked at their website, it feels very tech towny. It's like, because I know that Tech Town is government funded. They have incentive to open up businesses in Wayne County. So stuff's out there. Great Lakes Women's Business Council, amazing organization. And they have I was speaking at one of their panels last week, and she said something crazy like they have $4 million to give away this year, and they
oh,
need to get rid of it. Like these organizations have money and they need to put it somewhere. And like, why not you? Why not me? Why not us?
yes,
We just need to pop that bubble where it's like, where is it? All I have to do is ask questions. I think people get in their head about like, I need $1 million. How am I going to get it? Is it going to fall from the sky? If you're talking to the right person, it might.
yeah.
It might, So, but it does take the work. And so you mentioned like going through the VFA, like vetting process, working as an intern and building PoGo at the same time. And I'm sure also social life, family life, personal life. How did you manage and juggle all of those things at the same time? Like, what are your tips and tricks?
Yeah, so I'm a project manager. Like I project manage my whole life, honestly.
Okay.
At the time, I was using bullet journals. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but it's basically like a way to create a planner, but you do everything yourself. So like you can draw from scratch, and it's also allowing you to like get creative every month. So I track like a lot of my habits. I track my sleep and water intake and things like that, just to build habits over time.
Yeah.
And as a techie, I always put myself on like sprint plans, which a sprint is basically working on a project or a set of tasks over a set amount of time. So most sprints are either 2 or 3 weeks. And with that, I outline like what's needed for this project. So at the time when I was working and doing all that stuff, I didn't have time to, again, to do 40 hours worth of work. So if I'm looking at 5 to 9 every single day, or at 5 to 9, yeah, no, every single day, because most of the time I work on the weekends for in the beginning, or still
Yeah.
now, but
Yep.
yeah, you just add that up, and then you can break down, like, based off the task, how much time you can allocate to each thing. I'm very like type A brain, like very organized, strategic with my time.
Yeah.
Google Calendar. Uh, Now I use Notion. Please get into Notion. Somebody tell Notion to, make me a ambassador or sponsor,
Yes.
because I literally use Notion so much for everything. Now I bullet journal in Notion. And I created this template and stuff that I use for my yearly calendar and stuff, and
Mm.
tracking tasks, putting myself on a sprint plan, having accountability buddies. That's one thing that people don't look into. Through VFA, I had accountability buddies. Through some of these other programs I've done, I've had accountability buddies, and now I've
Yeah.
adopted in my everyday life. But just looking at people, not just your friends, right? It could be someone you're in school with. It can be someone who works with you. So it could be your parents. It could be anyone who you feel like will hold you accountable and give you that extra push, and not be like a yes ma'am, like,
Yes.
you don't want anyone who's just going to be like, oh, well, it's okay that you didn't do that. No, it's not. You need to get on your grind. Um, Also take care of yourself. But like, that's really how
Yeah.
I it. Some version of like project management tool, or bullet journal and planners. I would say if you're just starting out, definitely start with a planner, something that's already created, so you just go in and like set your task. But it's always good to like look at how much time you actually have outside of work, because you don't want to set yourself up at the beginning of the month with a to-do list of 10 things, and you only have extra, outside of making food for yourself every single day, you only have an extra 2 hours of work after you work at your regular job, right? Because that's not realistic.
Right. Well, how did you define that timeline? Because I'm not a type A person. I would say I'm somewhere floating between A, B, and C. Like I can get type A, but I'm very like I have a organized chaos because I have like a million tabs open at once. So if you saw my brain, you might be like, we need to organize this. But I function in buckets like that. But how would you advise someone who's like never done a bullet plan or bullet journal, or they're coming to this with a little bit of a chaotic energy in me, where I'm like, okay, how do I actually know how much time I need to allocate to this thing or this particular project if I'm working on 7 projects at once?
Yeah. So I would first go on YouTube and learn about different ways to manage what you're doing. So,
Mhm.
for instance, and also like have it be catered to how you learn or how you work. So, if you are a person that works in buckets, right? I'm a person that works in lists, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're a person that works in buckets, like you can literally type that in Google or type that in YouTube and figure out like organization skills for people who, I don't know the word, like work in buckets, or like
Yeah.
prioritize things in the way that you prioritize it. You can just put that in Google. So start there and like learn about how other people do it. I always say that that's like my first thing with everything. Like,
Mhm.
see people, understand how other people are doing this, because that's the best way to learn,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But once you do that, figure out a tool that you're going to use. So for me, bullet journaling was great, but then I didn't have the time to create my bullet journal every year or every however long I had it for. So I started moving over to the digital, and it's also free basically, because I don't have to buy notebooks every year. Um,
Right.
but I can still keep that same feel and context. So that has been good for me. But I started off with like planners, and then my planners would get super creative and stuff like that. So I would just say starting off with a method that you're familiar with, and maybe just like elevate it over time. And then for the time management stuff, um, what I do is I literally sit down with my calendar and I count the hours that I'm working at my 9 to 5. So right now my 9 to 5 is PoGo, but something
Yep.
I'll do on my side or on the side is do more art. So I'll sit down and see how much time I'm regularly spending on PoGo, total that up, and then look at how much time is available in the week, right? And then
Mhm.
I track that availability time from the time I'm doing PoGo, and I also have a part-time job. I do a lot. It's okay. Gotta get
Yep.
you. But yeah, have a little. I work like 15, 20 hours for. So I subtract that and then I see how much time I have realistically. So realistically, I might only have 5 hours a week, which is an hour, let's say an hour,
An
5 days.
hour a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's how much time I would spend on painting. And if I want to do a big project for painting, I would do like, I would break down that project and what needs to into what needs to happen. Or you can
Hmm.
like SMART goals, which is like I forgot the acronym, what it
I
stands for.
know. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't remember.
Yeah, something about like being like reliable and time, realistic and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, look at that task and then say, okay, I'm gonna allocate maybe my first 30 minutes of painting every day is just me like brushing up from the day before, and then the next 30 is like me doing something new or starting on a new section of the art piece, right? Like you don't have to, we
Yeah.
don't have to be these machines that push everything out like super
Mm-mm.
fast, right? Like for me, I just want to do one painting a month. And
Okay, it's a good goal.
that's enough because I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be at this point a full-time artist. I'm not in a residency. I don't have to be Picasso. I don't have to
Mhm.
be any of these art. Well, even Picasso took years,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You don't have to be this like fast working machine, with everything in your life. You can have one section of your life that's like grind, hustle, and everything else should be pretty slow.
Yeah. I feel like we underestimate the power of chipping things away over time.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Labrie is my husband, he's a very like he does a little bit of everything every day. And he's been doing this since the day I met him. Like he's an engineer by day, but he also makes music and he DJs and he paints and he makes furniture. And every single day he'll just touch it. Just touch all of the things a little bit for like an hour, 30 minutes, even 10 minutes. He's like playing the piano and then he's down in the basement painting something. And at first I was like, why are you living this way? And like I saw it and I understood it, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it for me because I'm like a all or nothing kind of person. That's how I was like that was the vision I was prescribing to. Like if I can't get it done in this hour, then it's not worth doing it at all. Wrong. Like I didn't understand how much like a little bit over time. So something I was doing when I was trying to get more healthy and more active was 5 minutes of yoga a day. And I was like, it's 5 minutes better than what I was doing before, which was 0. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, I'm getting more flexible. Let me do 10 minutes. And now
Yeah.
I'm up to 30 minutes a day, which if you would have told me before that I was doing 30 minutes of yoga a day, I would be like, how do I even find, I don't have the time for that. I don't have time for that shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. It is 100% worth it. And now with being in boot camp and working and doing the revamp and doing the Let's Glow show and doing my consulting, I'm like, plus I'm meal prepping, plus I'm a wife, plus I'm a maid of honor, plus I'm a and.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite thing. For those of us that have ADD, this thing changed my life. So it's got like different minutes. So you just set it to like I want to do 5 minutes, and it just sets and it goes off in 5 minutes, and I could do another 5 minutes if I want. And like the other day when I was trying to like process all this stuff, I just was like, I have 1 hour, and that gives me 15 minutes. I'm gonna hit all 4 of these projects 15 minutes each. And
Yes. Time.
even though I was like not planning to do it that way, I felt less stressed. Like I could like unclench, I could like relax a little bit and sleep a little bit easier because I was like, I touched all the projects, I moved everything forward a needle, a little bit today because all of them need attention now.
Yeah.
And so everybody says like, oh, you're doing so much, and I'm like, but it's okay. I say the same thing that you do. I'm like, it's okay though, because I want to do it and I'm finding my way that's comfortable for me. Like Sundays I meal prep. I'm like, I'm in my PJs, I'm not talking to anybody, I don't have any plans, it's sanctuary day, I'm moving slow, I drink my coffee, no underwear, no bra, no nothing, like, and I'm in the kitchen pretending to be a housewife playing, like, and it's this part of me that I need to express. But I'm like, this is sanctuary time so that during the week, I don't have to think about cooking. I don't have to think about, but also I know that I poured my love into the food. So I still get that same like, oh, this is home cooked. This is for us. This is for me, from me.
Yeah.
But also saving the time and energy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And something that you mentioned about like saying you don't have the time, a lot of that is taking time away from the time that you could be figuring out with the time, you know? So like time blocking is a huge thing. I do that with my Google Calendar. So
Yeah.
if I'm gonna spend 2 hours a day doing painting or an hour a day doing painting, I do the same thing, and then I take little 5 minute breaks or 2 minute breaks and stuff like that. And it's really helpful. Yeah, I always get asked like, how am I doing so much? Because I really am doing a lot, and
Yeah.
it does at points you do burn out, but trying to be as replenishing and focus on self-care as possible allows you to really have like longer stints without burning out and stuff like that. So
How do
definitely part of
you
self-care
how
and
do
stuff.
you how do you do self-care? What does your self-care look like?
Yeah, so right now my self-care is art, face masks. I love face masks. Like I should have did one this morning. I have enough time though.
I'm sorry. Do it
No, it's
after. Do it after.
But yeah, I love face masks, and then just hanging out with like my friends. I like because I feel like I'm doing so much work all the time, it really replenishes me to like hang out with my friends. And then I grateful journal every day. I'm actually almost at 100 days of grateful journaling in a row. I think this is like probably my longest stint. At first, the goal was
Go.
25 days, and then again, like I read this book, one book that really changed my life when I was in college, or I think yeah, in college was the Lean Startup, and it's
Mm,
literally a 90-page book, very small, pretty popular now in like the startup ecosystem. Basically, every startup has applied this to their company, and it's basically talking about like the Lean Startup method, which is um, starting with something small, so like your MVP, the very bare bones, and iterating on that over time. And that's really just human nature if you really think about it, right? Like you just told yourself you had to unlearn some of that I don't have the time mentality, and then think about how you can make time. And it's even like with babies, right? we
yeah.
don't Babies don't just come out the womb walking, right? Like they start doing small things, and every day they iterate on that. And like that's how we should be living life. Like start with the small, and then you iterate and iterate. And the same thing as a business owner, when you have a product, start with something small, speak to people, show it to them, does it validate their problem, and then iterate on it every time you show it to somebody. So like I'm always hitting the drawing board designing stuff. I'm always thinking about how I can do something differently. If I get a piece of feedback and it sticks with me, I'll put that in my product and I change things around. Like I'm not afraid of listening to people and
Right.
having somebody tell me my app looks like crap, or like, hey, I don't actually like this shade of yellow, it makes me feel X, Y, and Z, like stuff like that. It matters to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically iterating on it every single day really allows you to um build something that people want. And we see this as the great example of this is Black Tech Saturdays. Literally Black Tech Saturdays. And
Literally that.
I gotta shout both of them out because they're honestly like my older siblings at this point. Um,
Yeah.
and I take so much pride in Black Tech Saturdays because they really listen to us, right? They came into this community. Of course, they're from here, but like they came into the
Yeah.
tech community as non-tech people and really learned what our pain points were. And it started from Johnny and Alexa just getting on the phone with people. I remember nights being on the phone with them, or being on the phone with Johnny until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes seeing him early in the morning, or just getting a random call and just being on the phone for like an hour, talking about what we wanted from the community. And then they literally went out. They were already doing something else. Even
Yeah.
Score was going to be successful. It's going to be
Yeah.
successful still, but they pivoted because they saw the market opportunity. And it's similar to how I feel about PoGo. Like when you see something that's so prevalent, like you have to do something about it. And when you
Mhm.
iterate on that process and listen to the people you're building for, you actually can build something great. And
Yeah.
see that again with as Black Tech Saturdays is one of the biggest examples I could use of this. Starting from 5 people to now having like 1,000 people at
Yeah.
Saturday sessions, and it's free. And you're putting me on to people who could cut a check, who could get me into a program. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact
Mhm.
I moved to Detroit, didn't know anybody, and now I'm cool with Doug's song, and he's
Right.
literally one of the richest people in this city. And it's not even to flex, because honestly, if you go to Black Tech Saturdays, Doug
You'll
is
meet
really
him.
nice
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
personable. He wants to help the community. So it's not even a flex at this point, because Black Tech Saturdays creates a space where we're actually, you know,
In the
looking at
room.
human to human. And it's
Yeah.
not about your status. Like, it's how can I help you? Even somebody who's breaking into tech can be helpful. So definitely check out Black Tech Saturdays and
Yes.
get advice and build from small and iterate on it.
And I think the thing that I love about it is seeing Johnny and Alexa lean into the things that they were already doing before they started Black Tech Saturdays, which was connecting people and seeing the value of a community. Like Johnny and Alexa would come into Bamboo and be like, you guys are building community like this, and I love how you're doing this, and this group is doing that, and you guys should implement this, and we saw this, and we think that you guys do it better. And he's constantly like looking at community as like as what it is, an ecosystem, a product, a solution, a problem, like, and playing in the sandbox. And it's just so beautiful to see them just kind of like skyrocket. And then everybody from there, it's like this, like, it's like a firework. It's like they lit the match and all these sparks are just like flying out of it all the time. So I'm always like Black Tech Saturdays till forever. I wish I had more Saturday availability, but
Yeah.
I'll tell people to come forever. But yeah, that's like, it's those atomic habits, right? Atomic Habits is a great book on like baby steps, 1% better. Like the reason I do the Let's Glow show is because I already talk to people like this all the time. Like I do this every day and I'm like, okay, how can I make this 1% better? I could just record it. I'm like, how can I make it 1% better today? I can post it. 1%, you know, we could up the platform, up the quality, up the people, up more often. And you guys are really my accountability buddies. Cause I'm like, if I didn't send it out, if I wasn't like, fill out the form and do all the work and schedule your time on the time slot, I'd be like, okay, well, we're just going to quit. But I'm booked out through June. Like,
I love that for you.
It's crazy. I just booked my Juneteenth with Georgette Applewhite. She's like, oh, I'm about to be the June. She's very excited. She's very excited. But yeah, it's all those little baby things. It's little baby things coming to this big, huge picture. And when people look, and they might do this to you, when people look at me, they think like, how are you doing all this stuff? And I'm like, I've been hosting the Revamp Clothing Swaps for over 5 years. I've been hosting events my whole life. I've been posting on social media since I was, I don't know, in college. Like these are all things that I've been doing, just perfecting and making better every day. And you guys are seeing the current version of me, but you didn't see all the shit behind me.
Yeah, they wasn't shooting me in the gym. That's what they don't understand.
Some people know. Some people have been rocking with me for forever. But you know, it's like there's so much more beyond just what you see like on social media. There's so much work that goes into it, so much intentionality. That's something that I think you mentioned, like you're intentional about your time, you're intentional about your goals, and you actually want to achieve them. And I want you to say it again. You said something about spending time thinking about how much time you don't have is wasting time.
Yeah, like when you're sitting there thinking about like you don't have the time, that's taking away time from you actually figuring out how you can make the time. Like, quote me.
Hello. I'm like, that is the realest shit because like me in December, I was like, I want to be this, I want to do that. I wish I could. And then one day it was, I didn't just wake up. It was, and some people know, but I got pregnant. And when I lost the baby in like February. I was like in the hospital, in the emergency room with the things on and all the things on. And I'm looking at my husband and I'm looking around and I'm like in the emergency room. And I was like, I could have died today. That's a reality of what could have happened. I was like, unfortunately, I had to lose my child in this situation. But the bigger picture is if I would have died today, would I be happy with the work that I've been doing? Or would I be pissed at myself for being like, I wish I could be this. I wish I could. So after I lost my baby, I was like, fuck it. We're going to just do everything because I could die tomorrow. God forbid, but I could. And if I die tomorrow, do I know that I did everything I possibly could to achieve what I've been trying to do for all of this time? And so I think after I lost my baby, I just kind of let go of the fear of fucking up, of looking bad, of sounding stupid, of people judging me. Cause like, on my deathbed, that's how I felt. I was like, on my deathbed, none of that matters. Yeah. None of it matters. So I see you.
Lost. I definitely can't imagine that. But I do know like the strength in being able to like get up and choose to live is one of the most beautiful things about life, honestly.
Yeah.
And just getting up and just doing it every single day, and like again, letting go in that fear. And even if you are still fearful, just doing it. Like Mike, not Mikey. Sorry, that's my dog's name. Nike. Nike knew what they were saying when they said just
Just
do it, because literally that's all you can do. Like you have to just get up and
just
do it.
do the thing. Just do the thing. And it sounds so simple and so hard and so easy and so complicated all at the same time.
And it is.
But and I just didn't, it's weird because I finally feel like I'm in a just do it flow. Like I've been preaching it for a long time and there's things that I would just do. But hello. Um I was like message. But I feel like I'm finally just like, fuck it, we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna post it. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We're gonna execute, we're gonna do, and we're gonna figure it out as we go. And it's just, I feel it getting better every time. All of it. All of when I say it, I mean everything, you
I love
know? So choosing to live, I love that. Okay, we are already at an hour. This
I love
always happens so fast. It happens too fast. It's too fast. I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
My last formal question is, what advice would you give to the person listening?
I love this. Find something that motivates you and hold on to it, and like let it drive you. And find things every single day. Like, I mean, every day, something that you're grateful for. So if that's like actually writing it down so you can have a log of it, do that and go back and look at it. Or if it's just saying it to yourself in the mirror, find something every single day that you're grateful for. Past your material looks, right? Give yourself affirmations. Like that was something that has helped me a lot, because I have like a lot of like mental health things, and I do struggle with like self confidence and things. Even though some people, like, you won't see that on the outside because I let my adrenaline just
Yeah.
rush. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like it is a lot to speak to people all the time and stuff like that. But affirming myself and giving me the love, give myself the love that I deserve, and taking that love from your community as well. Because some people like myself, like I struggle with, and people like, oh, you're killing it, and I'm like, oh my god, not too much, y'all. So I would definitely just say like taking all the love from yourself and from the people around you. Affirm yourself. Find things that you're grateful for, and find something that motivates you, and keep it close, and like make sure that you're paying homage to that thing that motivates you.
I love it. I feel like you just gave me affirmation that I'm on the right path. I really appreciate you for that because I'm like, I feel like I'm in that space, and you just did something that I completely understand. You're like, when people praise you, you do this, right? You're like, no, 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 right? Before I lost my baby, I caught myself doing this a lot. When people are like, how are you? Like, I'm so tired. Or how are you? I'm exhausted. How are you? I don't know. How do you? Or like, or you're doing amazing. Ugh. And I don't know what the shift was. Somebody said I'm so tired, and I checked her on it. I was like, well, how come every time I see you, you say you're tired, but you always have all this energy. But when you talk to me, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. And now you have to embody this, right? Now you have to embody this tiredness. And so something in that moment for me was like, I'm gonna learn to accept the appreciation and the what is it? Whatever people are saying to me, like I'm gonna accept it and embrace it, because if every time I go like this, oh, I'm not doing shit, then now I have to be that person that's not doing shit. Like
Yeah,
now I'm telling myself and other people that when you compliment me, I am not worthy of that. And now I have to live up to that unworthiness. And so that is something I'm actively working on because I have a hard time with that. I'm very like, I very much like you, I very much appear confident, but I have a lot of like, I am my worst critic and I'm very critical on myself. And so
yeah,
that's something that I'm working on. And if I get in a space where I'm like mentally unstable, I can stay there for a long time and I can spiral. And like, I get it. I get it. But I think those moments they're so small, but they're so big, because if everybody's complimenting you and asking you how you're doing, and your first gut reaction is to shrink, then you have to live up to the shrink. if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And so for me, I'm like, I'm practicing just saying thank you.
Yeah.
Even
That's
if I have to grit my teeth, I'm like, thank you. Don't do the thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And even saying like, I'm trying really hard right now to just accept this compliment. Thank
yeah.
you. And also I'm working on this.
Honestly, I relate to that so much, and I definitely need to do that more. I think this is something I've been working on since forever.
You get to work on that. You get to practice that every day because and it just like the thing that I started with is I didn't want to say I was tired anymore. So when people ask me how I was doing, I used to say I'm tired all the time. I was like, I'm just going to see what happens to my life if I don't say that. If I say something else, like I'm doing great, what happens? And how does the conversation go? What kind of things do we talk about instead?
Yeah.
Um, and it's made a big difference for me, at least. So
How much?
that's
Thank you for giving me advice because I needed that.
because words are spells. We're manifesting all the time. It sounds like you're a big manifester, you're a big gratitude person, which I am as well. And I have to be careful of what I'm presenting. And I was doing this for like all of last year. I was like, no, 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 I'm not doing enough. No, 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 I'm not doing this. And then when I get to doing the work, I'm like, well, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And then I don't do it. And then I get mad at myself. And then I'm in my room and I'm under my covers for the whole weekend, wondering why my life is terrible. And I could just be doing the work, which is the fun part. It's the fun part. So I love what you said about gratitude and focus and time blocking and just investment in participating in your own life.
Yes.
Because we give so much to people like, how are you doing? What are you working on? What can I help you with? Like, I'm guilty of that. And then just turning around and going home and doing nothing.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
I love that. I definitely think that's great advice to the audience as well. Like everything you just said, I resonate with. It's like so heavy. But yeah, thank you for saying that. I needed to hear that.
You deserve it. And I'm going to compliment you right now. So
Nah.
just brace yourself. You're Put your hands down. You're doing amazing things. People look up to you, people older than you, people younger than you. When I met you for the first time, like your energy was infectious. You were just like, I'm the founder of PoGo, blah, 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 blah. I'm doing all this. What are you into? And I was like, this chick is cool. And just watching your growth, even just the short time that I've known you, has been so empowering. And you make me want to hustle harder. And so keep doing what you're doing, keep enjoying that, and like keep showing that off because it's infectious. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate you for coming here today. Thank you for waking up early and skipping your face mask for me. I'm so sorry. That was never my intention to never skip self-care, but I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I definitely still remember the first time I met you with your fly ass outfits. Yeah, no, you're definitely like a style icon. I'm just waiting for the rest of the world to be hip. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate you so much. Okay, so tell everybody where they can find you. Your website, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, so you can check us out or check me out at Ara the Mecca on Instagram. I do not have a TikTok. But PoGo does, so you can check us out on pogo.vote on TikTok, Instagram, and then on LinkedIn. It's just my name. Please check me out on LinkedIn. Follow me. I'm trying to become a LinkedIn creator. But I do have one ask from the community. So if you like what I've talked about when it comes to PoGo and you want to support our work, please check out our GoFundMe. We are doing crowdfunding campaign, raising $30,000 so that we can build out some of the gamification features and launch our new film called Voices Unheard, where we'll be exploring first-time voters in Detroit, New York, and Baltimore and their experience around that experience of voting for the first time.
Hell yeah. And we'll be dropping everything down below in the comment section. So click all the links, poke around, play around, reach out. This is why we do the Let's Glow show, because I want to expose the network and vice versa of all the things that are happening. So Arabia, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you that are interested, I host a quarterly clothing swap festival. Our next one is happening on May 11th. We'll be hosting it at Bamboo Royal Oak. So make sure you pack up all of the stuff that you don't wear anymore. pack those bags, get rid of the clutter, bring it to the swap. We'll share with 300 other people, swapping clothes. And at the end of it, we're donating it to nonprofits in Detroit. One of them is Destined for Greatness, who supports 700 families in the city of Detroit and beyond, who are impacted by poverty and homelessness. So your clothing is going to a good place and you get new stuff. So like, it's a win-win-win. It's a win-win-win. So I will see you all next week. Arabia, thank you so much. I'll see you around, I'm sure. Everybody, thank you for joining us. It's the Let's Glow Show. Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.